Cool. So hi everyone, welcome to another synchronous PR review with me. Today we have Sayan Gosh, who is basically a software developer, and he has created one project, really good project in React. So we will be reviewing the PR of Sayan. But before I start with that, let's basically start with a brief introduction about Sayan, and then Sayan will also explain about his project, and then we will continue with the PR. So, Sayan, can you introduce yourself?
Hello. First of all, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I am from Kolkata in West Bengal. I have completed my BTech in 2022 with a CGPA of 9.25. Yeah, my batch is on electronics and instrumentation, but uh, but up, but I have changed my stream into IT sector. So for that, I joined Coding Ninjas and learning the coding skill and mm, I started with Java. Now HTML, CSS. Now in React, now I am very fond of the front end part of it, and yeah, I created a quite React project on it, and this is one of my React project. I uploaded my all project in GitHub, and now I am finding for job.
Yeah. Let's go through your project. So, if I can see, can you explain basically what you have made? I can see that it's really a good project. So, can you basically explain about this project? What is the idea behind this project and how you've implemented it?
Yeah, I got this is actually a company assignment from astrology. I got a Figma file uh, with a template of it and first planning it that like component to component and made it one by one like that. I first implement the navbar, then navbar attached with the header part.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, part by part, there is user user testimonial, banner, premium astrologer section, uh, then the animation part, then the user review part, and the footer part. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think seems like a good one. I think so. You have created the landing page for this, right?
yeah.
Hmm. Okay, and have you done this using Vanilla JS, HTML CSS Vanilla JS, or you use React?
No, I have done it only React.
Okay, cool. So yeah, seems a good one. I think you also implemented basically handle the media queries you added, right, to handle the different screen sizes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so responsiveness is also
So,
there. Okay, cool. Perfect. So yeah, let's go through the code. You also raised the PR, and so today what I'm going to talk about is that basically I will review the PR for this particular feature, and let's see that basically how you've written the code and how you implemented. So feature wise, this project looks good, but now let's see that the code wise, basically what are the is there any issues in that? Uh, one I think the one mistake that I can clearly see that here you are using index as a key, right? So here the I is
yeah,
index, right?
yeah,
Now basically you should never use index as key when you are basically rendering the list of item. The reason is that basically the React uses this key in order to identify uniquely this list items in the right. And what
hmm,
happens is that, let's say that once you add one more item at the starting of the your list, right, then the basically what will happen is that basically then the whole index will change and the key will change, right? Let's say that
yeah,
you
yeah,
added one more card at the starting, so now the first card is has a different zero, so your index has now changed, so all your list
hmm,
item index will change and so is the key. And that will basically make React to re-render everything again, because React will not able to identify them uniquely, and React will know see that okay, previously I was at the zeroth index, I was basically rendering a card which has, let's say, astrologer Ramraj, right? But
hmm,
now you added, let's say, Cyan, you added one more astrologer card with the name Cyan in the starting. So now at the zeroth
yeah,
index, Cyan will come, right? So React will
Yeah.
know that when the React will internally compute the difference in order to render the in order to perform the update in the DOM, React will know that okay, the whole DOM has been changed, so it will basically re-render everything from the starting itself, right? And that is
Okay.
happening why? Because now the indexes has been changed and so as the key, so React will not able to uniquely identify and it will basically re-render whole list. But if you would have used the unique key here, let's say that
Yeah.
the astrologer has some unique ID, so in that case
Yeah.
if you add one more item, so those IDs will not change, right? Those unique ID will not
Okay.
change, and React will know that okay, there is only single item which has been added in my list, right? So it will render itself, and the remainder of the list items React will not consider as a change. Why? Because the key has not changed. So the only problem with passing indexes as the key is that once when you perform any manipulation on the list item, filtering or adding at the top, right, the index will change and so as the key, and that will basically React will calculate the whole difference and it will re-render your whole list item, which is basically bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I can use UID for UID library for that.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Can date.now can be considered as key?
No. So date.now is really, really bad. So you see, the whole idea is behind this whole thing is that React uses key to uniquely identify this component in the React DOM, right? And when you perform any update, React has to know that what has changed. So it uses the diff algorithm to find the diff, right? In the diff
Yeah. Yeah.
algorithm, React will try to see that if you are using date.now, right, in that case every time your render happen, the time will change so as your key. So the idea is that React should use that key to uniquely identify that these are the items which have not changed, right? In the and it uses the key parameter to do that. Now if you use date.now, then at every re-render the key will change, right?
Yeah.
So there
Yeah.
is no use of having a unique key. So React will now see that
So
okay, there is a new list with a different key, so the previous one I need to basically destroy and I need to basically create the new one. So in the diff
yeah.
algorithm it will pick the whole item, whole list as a diff, while in case of a key, if you only add while in case of having a unique key, in the subsequent re-render if you add one item, React will only basically consider the newly added item as diff and it will not consider the other list item as diff. Why? Because they have already unique key and the key has not changed. So that's the difference that we have. So that's why we should never use date.now. You should not use date.now or random numbers as a key. Always try to make key as basically unique, and also like having indexes basically creates a problem. As long as you're not changing your list item, that's fine, indexes work. But if your list is dynamic, then indexes are bad.
Yeah. 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 UID is preferable for that.
Yes. One more thing that I suggest is that you need to also do something called as props validation.
Yeah. Props.
Yeah, so let's say that you are expecting this props to be a object, right, which contains just something, add props validation. Okay, so let's say
Contain the
that
source.
you want this slide to be an object and which has some values inside of it, but someone send a number, right? In that case your
Yeah.
application will crash, right? So
Yeah.
basically that's why you can add a props validation, and props validation basically makes sure that if someone is basically passing this slide it will have, this will be of type object, and also you can add validation on its children that okay, this slide will have this properties.
Yeah. 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 For that. Yeah. Yeah. With the curly braces, we can separately chi- take out the children.
Yeah, I mean you can use prop type. There is something called prop type in React. Use prop type, and prop type help you to write validation of your properties.
Okay.
Okay, so here what you are doing in the header, uh, so you have a contact now, then you have this thing, this works, customer support is there, 100% the images are there.
Hmm. All our images are taken from flat icon.
Hmm.
Hmm.
But I can see that these are repetitive thing, right?
Yeah, but these are images are different.
Yeah, yeah. So images are different. So again, like could have created a component, pass the images as a props, and the text as a
Okay. Yeah,
props. You
yeah,
could have used it, right?
yeah, yeah.
Hmm. Like the thing is that whenever you see that you are writing a piece of a code and it is getting repeated multiple times, and you can see that okay, the only thing that is changing is the data. So that is the classical example of creating a component, right? But just
Okay.
that create basically the skeleton of it and then pass the data from the props so that you don't have to write it like this whole code again and again, right?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, this is fine. Is here that in spite of writing logic like this, if greater than one, basically do this, right?
Hmm.
There are, I mean, you could have handle it in different approaches. One thing is that you can basically create a function called give review image src, right?
Yeah.
And then you pass the rating, and then you can inside of that you can basically use a switch statement, and then you could return the data out of it, right? So in that
Yeah.
logic would have been like much easier. You simply get the src of it, and that function will take care of the based on the review. That function will give you the image, right? And you simply render it
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
here. So you don't have to write all of this thing. This looks a bit bad. One more simple approach that I can think of is that you can create a map saying that okay, if your rating is greater than equal to 1, or let's say if it is 1, you basically you return this particular image, and if it is 2, then you return this particular image, right? So that also could have also work. So in that
Okay.
case you can basically do this lookup in own time, right? So I think
Yeah. Yeah.
both having a function is the most simpler approach, but if you want to create a map, that also work. So that would have basically reduced all of these multiple images and multiple ternary operators. All this logic would have been moved into a function.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think, but that time I did not recall it.
What are you saying?
Yes. That time I cannot think of it.
Yeah,
That.
yeah, yeah, no, no, yeah, I mean that's no problem. Okay, I think this is fine. The only thing that need to be taken care of here, so in this case this thing worked no problem, but just as a feedback, like, is whenever you are using functions, right, like this.
Hmm.
So what will happen is that basically every time this component get re-render, right, react will
Hmm.
create basically react will initialize these functions again, right?
Yeah.
And you know that functions are stored in objects, right? And
Yeah.
you also know that basically every time you will create an object, its reference will different, right? In the memory
Yeah.
the reference will change. And because of that, if you're passing this function to a child component, because here this works because you're not passing it through any child component, but if you're passing these functions as a props to another children from here on, so what will happen is that because of this, every time this component re-render, this will basically trigger props basically the child component will get re-render because of this previous and the next functions are getting changed, right? And why they're getting changed? Because of reinitialization, and every time it get initialized, it gets initialized into a different memory location, and that the memory location changes, which triggers the props change, and which triggers the subsequent re-rendering of the child, right? So that's a
Hmm.
one
Yeah.
problem we can face, right? But I think that problem is more significant when you are basically so there are a lot of childs of this component, but in this case I think you don't have any child, so this works. But moving forward, if you get into those scenarios, basically you have to take care of this thing, and the solution is that you can use a hook called use callback. So the use callback will make sure that it preserve the reference of the memory in the memory in the subsequent re-render, so that the reference will not change, and it will not trigger the children re-render due to the props change.
Okay. Inside use callback.
Yeah, yeah.
That.
Good. Then you have some styling here, images span, images. Why these empty dips?
The aimed dips is for uh, the partial downside that yeah, circular bar. Yeah, yeah, the video cursor upside.
This one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This one.
Mm-hmm.
The downside that
Oh,
white circular dip. Yes,
oh,
small.
circular dips. Okay, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's fine, but yeah, I mean, so if I see this code, I would be confused at why this multiple dips, right? But like you could have if created a
Yeah,
component with a meaningful so when you create a component, the thing is that you can rename it to a meaningful one, right? You can say
yeah,
that this is
yeah,
basically a carousel circle, right? Something like that.
yeah,
And then you can basically create render it 5 times, right?
yeah,
So that would be when I see that, it will be clear to me that basically these dips are for cross, right? Either this,
yeah,
or
yeah.
either you could have
Or use a comment up on
right,
it.
correct, yes. So attribute, giving some classes. This is the src for your video, and you are taking this data from the data,
Hmm.
autoplay, muted, and loop. Okay. So generally, I mean that's not a at this level, but moving forward, when you work in a company,
Yeah,
there is something called as basically you should not you should not autoplay the videos, and the reason is that basically let's say that there is some user is visiting your website and application, and you are basically start playing the music, right? And that person is, let's say that visually so let's say that the person has some is basically partially blind, right? So
yeah,
so basically there is special term, I just forgot the name of it in my mind. So basically it's not basically it's not suggested that you should autoplay the videos, but I think in this case it should work because it's a slider. But moving forward, when you are adding any videos, I think let's user play the music.
user, yeah, accessibility.
Yeah, 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 that's called actually a web accessibility, that's correct. So yeah, so it's a bad thing. So generally they rely on the web accessibility tabs, keyboards, buttons, right, to navigate through your
Yeah,
application.
yeah,
So doing autoplay reduces your web accessibility thing, and it create a problem for a lot of visually impaired people. So they will land to your website, and automatically boom, you will start playing the music, the video. So yeah, let's rely on the tabs, so that user can basically know that okay, there is a video element, and then they play it. So that's a good thing.
okay.
But yeah, I think in this case that's fine. But yeah, just